Hey guys, I'm Silky, welcome to the channel. So with the addition of so many helicopters coming to Microsoft Flight Sim, I've noticed that quite a few people are struggling with the basic control of a helicopter, especially come landings and takeoffs, which I think is to be expected. And so I just wanted to make this quick video and go over something that I think gets skipped a lot when talking about control of a helicopter, and that is the relationship between your controls. My stick inputs and my pedal inputs. Alright, so what do I mean by the relationship between controls? Alright, so as I'm sure many of you are already aware, we've got our cyclic down here. The controls pitch forward, back, left, right. Below that, we've got our anti-torque pedals. Those control the orientation of our nose. And down here to the left, we've got our collective. The collective also has a twist grip throttle. We're not going to be going into that today. We're just going to be talking about the collective, and the collective in layman's terms is your up-down control. Just know that it is more complicated than just up-down, but for all intents and purposes here today, that is our up-down control. So collective, up-down, anti-torque pedals, controls our nose, cyclic, pitch forward, back, roll left, right. Alright, so going into the relationship between all of these. So say we want to pick up into a hover, first thing we would have to do is start pulling in power with our collective, right? Alright, so as we pull in power, so I'm not going to touch my pedals, I'm not going to touch my stick. As I pull in power, if I do nothing with the other two controls, the nose of my helicopter is going to want to spin to the right. And that is always going to be true in most helicopters, is that if you pull in power, your nose will want to spin to the right. European models that the rotor system spins the other way, everything gets reversed. It's the same premise, but for all intents and purposes here today, in most helicopters that I've seen in sim so far, as you pull in power, your nose is going to want to spin right. The way we counteract that is with our torque pedals. So as we pull in power to go into a hover, we need to anticipate that right hand spin and add in some left pedal. An easy way to practice this is to pick a point out in front of you. Let's say that big bush out there. Just keep our eyes focused on that. We're going to very slowly add in power, and we're just looking for movement. Adding in power, there's movement, and I counteract with my pedal. And we're not using our stick yet, so it also wants to roll a little bit. So when it does that, just go ahead and slowly lower your power back down to settle back down. And so once more, slowly adding in power, looking for movement, and counteracting that spin with our left foot. If we do too much, and it wants to spin to the left, of course it's not going to do it for me right now, but if you put too much left pedal in and it wants to spin to the left, all you have to do, you don't need to put in right pedal, you just need to take some pressure off of that left pedal. Alright, and then the last part is the stick. As we pull in power, our nose wants to spin to the right, so we have to add left pedal. Our left pedal is controlling our tail rotor. Our tail rotor is counteracting the torque that is created by our main rotor system, and it's doing that with thrust. So anytime we're putting in left pedal here, we're using thrust with our tail rotor, which is going straight out the left side of our aircraft to counteract the torque of our main rotor system. So if we don't counteract that thrust with our stick, we're going to start drifting to the right. So I'll show you what I mean by this. I'm going to pick it up into a hover, and if you look at my attitude indicator there, or at the horizon, you can see I'm not quite level, right? I'm a little bit what we call left skid low, and that is counteracting that drift that I was just talking about. If I put my skids level there. See how I start drifting to the right? Let's get away from this building. Go out here in the field where I'm not going to hit anything. So now we're once again in a pretty stable hover. As you see by my control visualizer there, I've got some left stick in to counteract that drift. I've got left pedal in to counteract that spin. If I want to do a pedal turn to the right, I don't need to add any right pedal. I just let off of that left one and it spins on its own. If I want to spin left, I increase the power on my left pedal and it spins left. And then to stop it, I can just let off of the left pedal. So you can do most of your flying here with just left pedal. So now we'll get airborne and I'll talk about a few more things as to it, how it pertains while in flight, and then we should be all set here for today. Alright, so now we're in forward flight. Helicopters by nature, once they've gotten up to enough of a forward airspeed, they want to weather vane into the wind. So it wants to stay in trim pretty much on its own from whatever way the relative wind is coming. So what that means is right now I don't need a whole lot of pedal, right? I have no pedal input right now and I'm perfectly trimmed for forward flight. If I put in full deflection of my left pedal, I can get to about there. If I put in my right pedal, I get to about there. Right, so I can't fly forward, I can't fly sideways or backwards while in forward flight. In forward flight, a helicopter is pretty similar to an airplane in that you bank or roll to do your turns. You'll need a little bit of pedal, but not a lot. And so going back into the relationship between all of your controls, let's say I'm cruising along at this altitude here, and I want to descend, but I don't want to gain airspeed. So in that case, I'm gonna keep my same pitch attitude here, right? So I've got, what's that? I don't know, 4, 5 degrees nose down, and I'm gonna lower collective. And going back into the relationship between our controls, reducing power, right? So what do I need? I need right pedal, or in this case, just less left pedal. And that'll keep me in the same pitch attitude, so I keep the same speed, but I lose altitude. If I want to speed up, I've got to put more nose down, which means I need to pull in more power, because otherwise I'll just fly straight into the ground. And what do we need when we pull more power? More left pedal. And then if I want to slow down, but I don't want to gain altitude, to slow down I need to start increasing my back pressure on my stick. But if I do that without lowering my collective, I'll balloon. I'll show you what that looks like. So let's say I want to slow down right now, but either I don't lower my collective enough or at all, I gain altitude. I'll slow down, but I'll gain a lot of altitude. So the way you counteract that is if you want to slow down and maintain your altitude, same as before, it's a balance. You're going to have to, there's no substitution for practice here. So you're gonna slowly increase back pressure while slowly reducing your collective. And the more you reduce your collective, the more you'll have to pull back on the stick to maintain altitude. And then eventually you'll have to add power in to get into a hover. And one last thing I want to mention, I said I wasn't going to go into controls as far as setup too much here today, but I will say that helicopters are very sensitive by nature. They are typically flown by fingertip pressure, so you want to have your sensitivity settings such that you can fly with fingertip pressures. Alright guys, so I hope that helped. I hope that kind of clarifies things for some people and makes it a little easier to get a handle on helicopters, especially in the takeoff and landing environment. If you have any questions, please feel free to leave a comment. I'll do my best to get back to you. Otherwise, like, comment, subscribe, and see you in the next one.